Okay, brilliant. So now I would like to introduce a very powerful female entrepreneur, Emi Takemura. And she's going to share with us her story of her global challenge. So let's give a nice big welcome to Emi.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here today. It's such an honor to share some of my experiences in building international business career and expanding our startup product, PTIX, to international markets for the past 3 years. Before I get into my story, sorry, I don't know, the clicker is not working. Sorry. Excuse me. Before I get into my story, I would like to let you know today's my talk, the next half an hour, is about you. I'd love you to start thinking about the world is your oyster, which means you can do anything, you can achieve anything you wish, because you can create the opportunity or ability to do so. This is a belief I try to have running a startup business, because when you start a project, as Williams mentioned, you're the only person who believes in the vision and the world that's not there that you'd like to create. So hopefully some of my experiences today is helpful and hopefully inspirational in getting used to start projects or new ventures or start forming international relations that will last for your lifetime. So speaking about international, why international for me? I don't come from international background, to be very honest. I'm speaking English today, but I grew up in Osaka until I was 18, and my only exposure to English was honestly whatever I learned at school and in HK's radio English lessons. That's the only thing I had, because back then there's no app, there's no internet, and I was too busy studying to prepare for college, and I didn't get a chance to go to English school. But that didn't stop me, because I was inspired to learn and see the world. Why? When I was growing up, my father and my aunt used to travel overseas occasionally. So as you can see the picture, although I didn't know anything about outside of Osaka, I was very inspired, because my father would share about stories like seeing a pyramid, my aunt talk about busing street in Hong Kong, or my dad really enjoyed visiting Las Vegas, or beautiful city of Paris. So with all these stories, I fantasize in my brain that, okay, one of these days, I've got to get out there by myself and see in front of my eyes. So just that passion alone got me to really stay focused, and when I got into college, I knew I had to find some way to pick up English. So I took a year off from college and went to Seattle, attending a very small local college, and lived with host family and learned English that I speak today. And after a few years, after graduation, I also attended a graduate school to receive a degree in Philadelphia. So those 3 years alone really transformed my skill set and really helped me build a competitive advantage as somebody who can do business abroad. And that experience really gave me a confidence that, okay, now I can aspire to build an international career such that I can combine my personal interest and work. How good is that, right? So that's how I embarked on my initial career right out of college, not knowing exactly what I wanted to do, but all I wanted to do was I wanted to have an international business career with the potential to impact the world for the better. So I joined a consulting firm initially, and that got me to travel various countries, more than 10 countries in Asia, North America, and Europe. And during those years, I was very lucky to run into internet revolution. It may sound really silly, but back in early days in '94, we had a first email address in our office. One address for the entire office. And you may wonder, wow, why couldn't everyone have an email address? But back then, nobody thought it was necessary. The fax was the king of data communication. We still use fax today, but that was a dominant platform back then. And everyone's like, why do we need email address? What are you going to use it for? But for us, I saw immediate value because that was the way we could send messages across India or all these other countries. And also, that gave me a way to access information that I would never visited, whether it's NASA or MIT or etc. So at that moment, I knew I wanted to do something with the internet. So I begged my firm to put me on the project so I could be involved with whether it's telecommunication networking, it's a content multimedia projects, etc. With that single focus that I wanted to do something with the internet, it was very ambiguous, but that helped me raise a focus to get into this space. And in '99, I jumped ship and moved from consulting to this internet space. So you may be familiar with some of these things that you see on this page, but those are some of the projects that I worked on after consulting days for the past 15 years before I started my company with other founders. So these experiences really helped me experience a bunch of different roles. Although it was all in B2C or B2B2C internet space, my role ranged from business development, content acquisition, writing specs for auction platform, writing new feature set for books business, managing omni-channel marketing strategy, or even offline store promotional materials. So these various experiences of learning and unlearning really helped me solidify the foundation for starting a company, but also it gave me a great confidence that, oh, you can just learn anything. You can always start learning and then reinvent yourself. So the corporate career with all these great brands was very comfortable, and I was busy, but my career was progressing quite nicely. But something inside me was always telling me that I needed to have a product of my own. I wanted to have a bit more direct influence to the consumer with a product that we have a better control of. And very fortunately, 3 other founders I started a company with felt the same way. So as a very small step to realize that dream, we started kind of like a weekend startup club thing, where we brainstorm ideas, talk about what can we do, and then we finally ran into a great idea. This is before PJX, but great idea we thought at that time of creating a direct-to-consumer platform for musicians or artists, because I was involved with books business, our CEO was involved with the music business. So in 2007, we took a leap of faith and started a company called Orinoco, which is a river. It's actually quite big river offshoot of Amazon. And that was actually a really fun start. We self-funded because we all had corporate jobs, and I was old enough back then that we had a bit of a saving. But seemingly a good idea, a weekend startup club into a company with a great product idea wasn't such an easy start. I didn't join the company until 2010, but for the first couple years, while we were trying to fund the project with our corporate job career, and we had few engineers to work and focus on the product within the company, but with lack of focus, the product wasn't progressing, or we didn't have customers that we had hoped to achieve. I believe that we had too much of sort of resources and comfortable environment in the corporate that we didn't quite know how to have a sense of urgency and be perseverant and start approaching the product in the way the startup should. So, but we didn't want to give up. So in 2010, we tried to figure out, okay, our initial product wasn't progressing as we had hoped, but we don't want to give up this dream of creating a product on our own and hopefully provide that product to the people around the world. What can we do to sustain ourselves until we have this it product? So one thing we knew we were really good at was we were good at working with companies around the world because, including myself, we had all worked for international companies in the past. So we came up with the idea of, okay, it will take many, many iterations of having multiple products, maybe, until we have this it product. So how can we build a sustainable business and fund the project while we try to incubate? So we came up with this idea of, okay, let's bring world's greatest products to Japan. So including products like SurveyMonkey or Bitly, we represented them in Japan, or we helped them enter the Japanese market, or help with some projects along the way, which funded our kind of incubation phase without taking a lot of developer resources. And this kind of a pivot strategy served us quite well, because then now we have, instead of having a big sense of urgency, we gotta have a product tomorrow, we had a cushion of, okay, let's try to really find a good product for us in the long run. But fortunately, in 2010, we ran into the concept of having a ticketing platform on mobile phone while we are actually trying to find other partners to work with. And initially, we thought about maybe working with some of the partners in the US or elsewhere and bring that platform to Japan. But that conversation didn't go so well, and we still love this idea of being able to serve really big, broader needs of all the creative types, whether it's authors and musicians or party organizers or reunion organizers. All these people could take advantage of a platform like this. So we decided to take another leap of faith and channel all our energy and money into incubating PTEX, and we launched it in 2011 May. So what is PTEX? PTEX is a mobile-centric event platform, now available in 27 countries. It started out as a very simple platform of anybody, if you come to ptex.com, can create, promote your event on social media, sell tickets using convenience store payment or credit card, or manage the ticket buyers with a QR code scanner app. It's a very simple platform, but it was very powerful that we knew from first month that it had a very different reaction for any other products we had in the past. So we finally found our it product. And how, from that day one of finding or launching the PTEX to growing to about 2 million user base today, we had a very focused vision and strategy to continue our growth path for the past almost 5 years. So we have 4 pillars. The first of all, we had this learning in the past that because we didn't have easy to use UX design, our first product didn't work so well. So for this product, we started out from user interface design first. And we made sure that it was very smooth for end users to buy tickets or for the organizers to create events online without breaking organizers' budget at low cost with a great customer service. Customer service is underestimated by many people or many startups, but in reality, it can be your secret weapon. Why? Because many startups, especially the tech ones, tend to focus too much energy on product development, and the customer service becomes second priority. But fortunately, coming from retail background, we knew both sides of the coin was important enough. So from the get-go, we try to have a very high repeat behavior by focusing on customer support, whether it was in Japan, New York, or Singapore. And finally, for the past 2 years or so, with concurrent thousands of events now on our platform online, we try to focus our energy on helping like-minded people find each other with our recommendations, search, etc. So these kind of strategy really help us unify, although we have a very small team across 4 different locations. And, and then today, I would like to also introduce you that this year, we're entering into a new phase of just being an event platform into a platform for community event organizers. So please have a look at this short video to see what it's all about.
イベントイコールコミュニティなのかなと思ってます。居場所というか場というかをどう作り続けられるのか。
I mean, I do it to showcase the talent to a wider audience, but also I do it for the community that I'm from.
Thank you for watching. So this year, now in our 5-year mark, we're evolving ourselves from just being an event platform where you can create events and sell tickets online. We would like to better serve community event organizers across globe. Globe means, like I mentioned, our service is available in 27 countries, but currently we're focused on Asia, Southeast Asia, especially Singapore, Malaysia, and the USA. And for the past 3 years, I led our business expansion effort in Southeast Asia. So from here, I would like to share how I did it and some of the lessons learned from that experience. In 2013, me, one of the co-founders, and our founder and CEO moved overseas to spearhead the international project. It sounds like a bold or risky move because we all of a sudden divided up the management team into 3 different locations. But that served us quite well because, as you can see from the graph, because we had this focused, concerted effort to launch the new markets, we started seeing faster growth as we expanded internationally, and now international makes up 25% of our total business. And why do we choose the US and Southeast Asia? To be very honest, startup is all about passion, and it's partially professional and partially personal. And so it was actually a mixture of personal and professional decisions. But as you can see on this chart, these two markets are both large and has two very different dynamics. So we wanted to see whether or not we can make it in both conditions. So we did. And speaking of ASEAN, or Southeast Asia, as you might know, it's a big region, diverse region, with 600 million people, with still low but growing GDP per capita. As you can see, the growth rate is higher than that of Japan. The good news for us is that a lot of people who love going to events are young people, and Southeast Asia tend to have populous countries and a young audience with a growing middle class. So we felt that, okay, although the GDP per capita is still small, there's some infrastructure issue, for the long term, it could be an interesting region for us to participate. And looking at this chart, it probably looks like, so why Singapore? It's a small population and not Indonesia, the Philippines. The reason why we started off from Singapore is because in addition to these macro conditions, there are various other factors we have to factor in to prove that we could actually build business internationally. So other considerations we factored in are things like, as a foreign entity, is it easy to set up a company? How's the legal structure? Is accounting relatively easy to file? Things like of that kind of housekeeping type of things. And us launching product in English and Japanese, which market has predominantly English language spoken, and also booming appetite for alternative culture and alternative lifestyle, which is the area of our strengths. And so all these things considered, we felt that although it's small, Singapore has a huge inbound traffic as well, all over from Southeast Asia and from the world. So in terms of people staying in Singapore, is actually quite large, and it meets all these considerations. So as a first bet, I started off our company, our first off-Japan company in Singapore in 2012. It wasn't exactly overnight success, but it took us about 9 months from the get-go to start our first community event in Singapore, and it's about the same of 10 months in Malaysia. Why do I say community events important? It's because it means that we actually have some customers that we can invite, like today's event, right? So it was a good benchmark that by then we were comfortable that we have some customer base. So it took us about 9-10 months to do that. So that dark first 10 months or so, why is it so difficult to start having a new presence while we had a reasonably sized business in Japan already? When you enter a new market, as you could guess, I had zero existing network. I didn't know anybody in Singapore. I didn't have a team. And interestingly, they care about local credibility. The Japan track record didn't matter as much to the people there. And I didn't know where to find event organizers. And as a startup, we had very little budget, so I couldn't hire local consulting firms or anything to do that type of background work. So it's a bit of a daunting task at the get-go, but I try to believe the first quote I gave you, the world is an oyster. If you believe in it, you know the vision, you work hard at it, one step at a time, you could eventually get there. So I try to focus on the positive and opportunities as opposed to these challenges I just mentioned. So after a bit of research, one thing I learned reading the media, being present in the local place, that there is a growing event scene, which is a really good news. And although there's a lot of competitive products, including international local product, our product had a competitive edge of having a great UI, mobile focused, great local customer support, and competitive pricing. So if I can convince some group of initial customers, I felt that there is a market for us to participate. And also, one good news is that there's nobody gluing the independent event organizer community together in Singapore at that time. So I felt that there's another opportunity for us to raise hand and take that role. So we would start being relevant in the community. So with these kind of positive information in my mind, I started building rapport and friends in the startup community by offering the value, that limited value that I could offer during that time, and start meeting people, and eventually I got referred to form my team. So initially it was a very small team, me and 2 other Singaporeans, but it was great that they both shared my passion that we wanted to empower the creative community in Singapore. And in 2015, now we have 6 people in both Malaysia and Singapore. It's still a small team and very lean. So we only grew the team a lot less proportion to the growth of the business. And we are able to do that because we stay focused on doing the most important things of serving community while letting the platform to take the growth itself. So at the beginning, it wasn't, as I mentioned, it was a bit of a dark days. We tried to do lots of different things. We did a lot of iteration of hypothesizing, testing, and testing. And coming from consulting, I enjoy creating these kind of charts. So I try to find our market segment niches, whether it's a lot of people throw me about trade shows, concerts, sporting events, parties, etc. So we try to kind of have this iterative cycle of a few weeks, we focus on these segments and see how it works. We're hitting some growth, but we are starting to have a bit of challenge because we enter this chicken and egg situation of, okay, your product seems interesting, but we only use it if somebody else is using it in my own segment. So I had to figure out how to build a momentum, how to build initial fan base such that I can stop this negative cycle of, oh, I'll use it if somebody else is using it. And at that time, I learned about how to create a movement. This is the famous video by Derek Silver on TED, and if you haven't watched it, I'll highly recommend you watch it. I can't explain in detail because I'm lack of time, but essentially what it means is if you're a naked man dancing by yourself, you are just a crazy guy. But if you have a few fans around you start dancing like this, then you have a mini movement, and the 3 people become 5 people, and then 10 people, and all of a sudden you have a movement, and everybody else wants to join in. So that was the vision I had. So I started building community so that I could have those first few people. So now we have a robust community, and we've run 14 local events in Singapore and 4 events in Penang and KL for the past 2.5 years. And each time, we try to address different organizer issue, different communities, so that we can keep finding these 2 people in little different communities, and on an aggregate basis, it becomes a big movement. Oops. So after 2.5 years, I'm happy to say that in Singapore alone, Singapore and Malaysia alone, we have 500 concurrent events, and it's growing organically without growing a size of team so much. Whether it's a party or a nonprofit or schools, tech, architecture, But what has in common is we are trying to empower people who are hitting the new frontier in Singapore and Malaysia. So a few things to wrap up, things learned over the past 3 years or so, building P-Tech's business globally, in Southeast Asia, is that it takes a bit of perseverance, but you hypothesize, test, and iterate until you find your own unique marketing or product niche. Your product may be great for many set of customers, but when you're starting out, you want to stand out from competition. You want to have this beautiful short tagline that sticks in the mind of people to be relevant. And it takes an iteration, but you can eventually get there, and then that's very powerful. And I can't stress enough, the hire the best people with cultural fit. If someone's less academically competent, but have a great culture fit, take that person rather than somebody who's really only academically strong, but has zero culture fit. That can get you really far. And building community sounds like a very manual and non-scalable way of reaching your audience, but in my experience, for our type of product, it really helped us build a long-term value and brand awareness. And we also try to be very consistent by offering customer delight, meaning we try to be consistent in offering good customer experience that people keep coming back to us. So we have a fan, but we don't try to let them down. And when you keep doing that over and over, days in and days out, eventually people start recommending you. So it's the most powerful when the word of mouth, people you're not meeting directly, you start talking about you and recommending your product to other people. And I was very fortunate to say that we finally kind of got to that stage in Southeast Asia. Or sorry, I shouldn't say Southeast Asia, Singapore, Malaysia. So I would like to leave you with this quote. Every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember, you have within you the strength, the patience, and passion to reach for the stars to change the world. William mentioned about the perseverance, and I believe the perseverance and hope, as he mentioned as well, are some of the most important asset in starting a company and make it a succeed. And I would like you to remember the dream, the hope, is the one that will help you get there. Sorry, I'm running out of time, but just as a news, I've done all this for the past 3 years, but I'm also moving on to the next challenge. I still would like to continue building my career in an international domain, and I'm tackling 2 different projects. One is around 21st Century Kids project. I'm a mom of 2 kids, and I would love to start giving back to society by focusing on helping kids of new generation by bringing some of my international experiences back to the community. And I'm also working on a social entrepreneurship accelerator to help solve world's greatest challenges, starting from Japan technology. So if anyone's interested in, let me know. And may the world be with you. Thank you for listening. Thank you.